Welcome to the Underground Warriors podcast, where we explore human potential and learn from everyday heroes who have risen to life's challenges, conquered their fear, and are impacting the world in positive ways. I'm your host, John Christian. All right. Hello, and welcome back to the Underground Warriors podcast, where we dive deep into the minds of people who break the mold, forge new paths, and refine what's possible. This is John Christian, and today's guest is a master of connection, disruption, and doing business differently. Marc is a very good friend and the founder of Virtual Power Network and a professional connector, super connector, who's been shaking up traditional networking models from the inside out. He's facilitated thousands of powerful connections globally through WhatsApp, breaking down barriers, building bridges for entrepreneurs, innovators, change makers. With a background in telecoms, finance, media, and global business, Marc has become a one-man movement in a virtual world of networking. So, Marc, welcome to the Underground Warriors podcast, where we go deep into the lives and the stories of those that are creating positive impact in the world. And I consider you one of those. So, Marc, welcome. And I'd love to hear maybe a little bit of that background story of where you came from and what thing put in your heart that you were meant to be doing this in the world.
Sure. So thanks, John, for having me, and great to be here. Small correction, virtualpowernetworking.com. And it's wonderful to be here. So I guess the reason I got here is because both my parents, who are sadly no longer with us, but both of my parents had the propensity to talk with strangers. So young or old, black or white, rich or poor, they didn't really give a damn, and neither do I. So I've definitely inherited that trait from them. And I've been connecting people all my life. I've actually created human beings with my Cupid playing antics back in the day. The eldest is now 24. But my matchmaking nowadays is business matchmaking. At the end of the day, business boils down to two things, and that's people and trust. So what I've done is created and curated this enormous ecosystem on WhatsApp full of some of the world-leading thought leaders and entrepreneurs, and created a place where they feel safe to engage. And then the business comes later. So I'm all about relationship building. And that's what life is all about, really. Relationships with our partner, our friends, our family, and human beings in general. And the reason I've chosen WhatsApp as my platform to connect these wonderful souls is because 3 billion people use WhatsApp globally. It's ubiquitous. And LinkedIn also plays a key role in what I do because it's a very powerful information tool, but not such a good communications tool. Whereas WhatsApp is the opposite. So LinkedIn and WhatsApp really complement each other very well, I find. And so to answer your question, I cut my cloth in banking and futures broking back in the days when greed was good in the 1980s. But I spent most of my career in telecoms. I was first to market with logos and ringtones about a generation ago. This is where you could buy a ringtone or a logo for your Nokia phone. Back then, Nokia had 50% market share. And then about a decade later, I launched the world's first celebrity chat line. If you go to YouTube and search for Dialer Star, that was me. You will find CNN, ABC, all roasting me or the idea. But there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? Fast forward to now, I operate WhatsApp groups, and WhatsApp, of course, is a telecoms product. So I'm using this technology to connect people, and it's wonderful. I've created this always open networking network where people can network at their own speed and whenever they like globally, and it saves a ton of time, money, and carbon.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a few points you hit on there that I think speak to a lot of different people, and the idea of connection. And as we start to leverage technology, many times we feel that disconnection. And I felt that in certain rooms, like disconnected from energetically from individuals as you start to evolve and your impact in the world. So finding those rooms of people that are focused, outwardly focused, is number one. The idea of that isolation as you're pursuing entrepreneurship is another conversation. And then the challenges of actually stepping out and moving forward with your idea or concept, whether whether you're an entrepreneur or not, whether you're impact driven leader or entrepreneur, there's this switch that turns on, and you stop thinking about what other people or think of you, and you move forward anyway because you know in your heart that this is a thing that was meant to come through you. So let's dive a little bit into those maybe three or four topics, and also look at some of those darkest days, because I think we all, as individuals with something in our heart, go through that like kind of dip, almost like you know the darkness of the soul conversation, and how you were able to move through that and stay committed to then create this absolutely amazing community of individuals that support one another in a very authentic and genuine way.
Yeah, you, you touched on something just now. There's an enormous paradox with smartphones because they are powerful computers and incredible communications devices, but they're actually killing off the communications that matter the most. And I'm part of a movement about childhood, smartphone-free childhood, because they're actually destroying the mental health of teenagers because everyone's addicted to the social media platforms and they get their dopamine hit. And the way I used to get my dopamine hit is through slot machines. I was addicted to slot machines for um, in my early adulthood as a form of escapism. Because when you play these machines, you get into a zone, and then all the other problems you've got in your life kind of disappear. Of course, they don't disappear; they get worse when you get the bank statements coming through. Um, but yeah, that was um, a painful addiction, and it's an insidious, horrible addiction because it's not really obvious at first glance if someone is addicted to gambling. And it's a problem that's really prevalent now in the United States, now that online gambling is so rampant. Um, you can't watch a football game now without being bombarded with TV ads for online gambling. So that's something I feel strongly about.
Yeah, it's about cutting through the noise, and getting to things that are actually serving humanity, right? As opposed to distracting humanity from the things.
That's called extraction. And most of the casinos and online gaming companies, they're making their money from people who are, they've got a gambling habit, and it can be all consuming.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can certainly relate to, well, surfing for me was the thing that I got addicted to, but I think that's a positive addiction, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a very similar thing is understanding how what we're doing influences either healthy addiction or a healthy obsession. That you get obsessed with something. In your case, I think it's connection. I'm obsessed. You're obsessed with connecting and creating impact. I think that's a
Yeah.
healthy obsession versus being obsessed with getting to it somewhere to do unhealthy things that aren't supporting yourself and others.
Yeah.
And the brain is actually, some of the work that I do inside of like conscious human performance and the experiential things that I do are all about creating those healthy connections, neural pathways to move towards things that you desire, truly
Yeah.
desire, versus like those quick fix type situations where you're only putting a band aid on this lack of fulfillment inside.
Yeah.
The truth is 80% of the world's population is unfulfilled. So why is that? Because they're going after those dopamine hits. And then after that dopamine's gone, they're feeling empty. It's like I just spent 30, 40, 50 hours on social media this week or whatever. Um,
Well,
and why do I still feel not fulfilled? Right. So I think that's why it's important that human connection piece, but also the creation piece. You're in that mode of creating something for people to be a part
right.
of, you know?
And I think what I've created is going to become more valuable over time
Mhm.
because we live in this era of AI and bots, and human beings are social creatures, and we want to engage with other human beings. Networking is part of our DNA, and all self employed people intuitively know that they need to network to grow their tribes. And yeah, my network never closes. So it's a great way to meet interest. I've created so many relationships, so many people met in my WhatsApp groups during the pandemic, virtually, of course. And then they started sharing photographs of themselves meeting in person. And that was really rewarding. And to know that I had facilitated those human connections.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I bet you there's probably some people that have actually built relationships, romantic relationships, and maybe even got married as a result of those connections. Like if you go deep into it, like not so even outside of the business interactions, I bet you there's some very close friendships, relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got lots of social proof. Like, um, for example, I know a lady who's she's been blind since birth. Her name's Krista. She's on the east coast of the United States. Blind since birth, enjoys skiing. Okay. And through my network, she found employment with a company, a UK company that specialized in website accessibility for the visually impaired. And she's now working for them. Wonderful example of how, well, we all know that the best jobs are unadvertised. The best jobs are found through networking because if you go to indeed.com, you're competing with hundreds, if not thousands of people just for one job. So several young people have found work in my network. So I encourage the parents of adult children to gift their children a year's access to my network because you can't emphasize the importance of having a strong network for young people when they leave school or university, socially and professionally, both.
Yeah, 100%. And one introduction could completely change the trajectory of somebody's life. You
Just
know?
one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Lisa from Canada, who joined last month, I she told me she was about frequency. So I introduced her to Susie, who is a music industry mogul. She's worked with Jay-Z and Kanye West. They instantly hit it off. Yes, I knew that Susie was all about frequency. She would be. She's in the music industry. But another guy I introduced her to called Robin, who used to run an airline and but spent most of his career in the luxury cruise market. He's all about earth frequency. He's got me into hugging trees and grounding.
Yeah.
I've always got high on nature, and they hit it off as well. And she was just blown away, by the introductions. But that's what I do. I introduce people based on their interests, career interests, and personal interests as well.
Yeah, but I think you're going beyond, like, so I was thinking about the traditional way of networking and that system being fundamentally broken. And the difference between what we might have known as networking before and what you're doing inside of the way you're thinking about connecting, and then also the AI piece of it, and those two merging, which then allows us to have more time in person to be with, people in a non-agenda way, and just like we used to be a tribe. So, you know, thinking about what you're talking about is the energetic connection that was already there before. It's already there. There's nothing. It's like when I meet a surfer anywhere in the world, you have this like common bond. Whereas most people go into networking with an agenda of like, hey, this is the goal that I want to have done, and create this. This is what I want, versus I'm energetically aligned with this individual already, and we're coming together in a way that both creates a win-win scenario as a result of us coming together. So I think that's, maybe you could elaborate a little bit, but that feels like the difference between traditional networking and what you've created.
Yes, and as you of all people know, networking is like opening a bank account. You can't make a withdrawal until you've made a deposit. It's about serving others. And that's how I built my network. And that's how you should go into networking. It's not about you, it's about them. If you take an interest in others, they will reciprocate. And it's all about developing those relationships.
Absolutely. And what do you think the effect is? Because we've been talking a little bit offline about AI and the way that that's influencing people coming together, and that actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as doing the introductions and connections and things like that. Um, so that more time can be focused on the actual connection piece versus the things that get you connected. If that makes sense.
I'm really excited by it. And the guy that made me aware of Bordy, who the AI super connector, um, he was frightened that it might replace people like you and me. And I told him, I'm not frightened. I'm on the contrary, I'm excited. And Bordy actually introduced me to someone, which resulted in a transaction, which resulted in money being in my bank account. Now, in a case like that, the first thing I do is establish who made that introduction and pay them a referral fee. It's the right thing to do. But because Bordy is AI, it doesn't have a bank account. So I've got no one to pay the money to. So AI is making me money in more ways than one. And I can see a scenario this year, John, where your AI is networking with my AI while you and I are having a lavish lunch somewhere. And we get back to our workstations and there are qualified appointments in our diary. Do you like jet skiing?
I like anything having to do with water.
See you in Bora Bora.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love that idea, and I think we're inches from that reality. And the idea that popped up in my mind as you were saying that is, as these AIs are doing the networking for us, or finding those connections out of millions of connections of aligned individuals, if there's no referral fee, what if there was a nonprofit where that referral fee went into a nonprofit to develop AI and other types of initiatives, or those giving forward missions? And everybody in the network, as a result of having access to this, then agreed to do 10% or whatever of the revenue that they did in their business to this organization. I think that would be pretty cool, you know?
I had an incident yesterday where someone wrote me a really nice, well-written comment on LinkedIn, and I was touched until I went to her LinkedIn and looked at all her posts. They were basically always saying the same thing, and it was written, but you could tell then that it was written by AI. And I think we live now in an era where human beings might get a bit pissed off with AI because they want that human touch, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think I think it's like any kind of tool, just like when, let's say, Word came out, as a way to write, like typewriters or, um, Microsoft Word or any of those platforms or computers themselves, they're a vehicle of expression. So to enhance expression or to build ideas. But I think that there is nothing better than tapping in and experiencing someone's soul and the truth. And that's, I believe, very impossible to replicate, you know, because of the complexity of the human being. So I think that's always going to be there. And the tools we use, I believe they were meant to save us time so that we can get back, to that in the current society with everything that's going on, everything we created. It's almost like a way to recapture that time and connection with those that we care and love, and perfect strangers that we don't know yet that we're building relationships with. It's like the tribal conversation, sitting around a fire,
Beautiful.
right, and coming together, sharing wisdom, sharing truth, um, creating connection, and in essence, feeding each other both spiritually and, if there's a hunt, you got food. So that conversation. So going back to an ancient sacred experience in the connection piece with these layers of technology that, in this world that we're in right now, which when I was a kid, like I'm probably dating myself a little bit, there were no really computers or, I mean, there was probably initial computers. Uh, it, I went through like no cell phones, no computers. We'd go out and we'd be outside. That's really where my love of nature
Well,
solidified.
I took a back to basics approach today, and I've launched a new walk and talk program, which is free. It's very simple. You just walk and you talk like the good old days on a phone. I've got a gorgeous park just around the corner from me, and I enjoy walking and I enjoy talking. So yeah, why not combine the two and keep fit? Because I live quite a docile life, and now that spring has sprung, I look forward to doing a walk and talk with you, John. Are you up for that?
100%.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, me and my wife were experimenting. We do another podcast outside of this one called Courageous Couples. And so we took the camera out into nature and we tested it for the first time, on some nature trails. And there was something about being outdoors and, an outdoor podcast isn't always conducive for sound, but I think there's enough technology to, filter that out and still have a value. But you're getting people connected with themselves and outdoor, and nature always does that, so that's what I'm passionate about is connecting
Exactly.
themselves through nature, and
I'm a big
sharing.
fan of networking as well. When you get a group of humans together as a walk, they will all talk to each other one to one during that walk at one stage. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a lot of the foundational and driving force behind, the idea of the 5 challenges and the I don't even like to call them retreats, they're more like challenges, because think about, you have a group of individuals who may or may not be comfortable, like we talked about, a trust, a safe environment that you've created, but a safe environment where they can be challenged, and then their stress response comes out, right? Where, you see the truth of who they are. And this happens in the military and things of veterans that spend time together, this bond that is unbreakable. So creating those bonds that are stronger than, those that you might be connecting with people in passing or acquaintances or things like that. Either you've built that bond through past experiences, like you and I have been through challenging, and we have that connection already. But doing that live real time with a group, with those foundations plus this experiential thing, bringing people together, knowing that you have individuals in your life that have your back. Like we've not met in person, but I know that I could WhatsApp you or reach out and be like, you know, hey Mark, this is what's going on. Like I'm needing some help, or like, and you'd be right there to say, well, how can I help or support? And that's sometimes missing in people's lives. They don't feel that.
So totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, looking at the idea of, the next, let's say, this vision that you have for the future and what you're working towards on a global scale, fast forward 10 years, what has happened as a result of your dedication? And I know there's huge dedication, like as far as people that are responsive, and with the size of network that you have, I have no idea how you do it. I think we talked and you said, like, I don't know if I sleep, but the connection that you have to the amount of people that you have is something that's very unique, and not many people have the commitment in order to do that. So there's something that's driving you beyond that. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit about that piece of it, and then the ultimate, down the line when, maybe what's written on your gravestone as the impact that you've had on people's lives.
Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, the world's largest networking network are called BNI, and they tend to meet at silly o'clock in the morning. All over the world, they've got chapters, and it's quite rigid and structured, but it works. I'm aiming to become the virtual networking equivalent of them, and reverse it. So they started with in person, and now they're focusing on mobile, on virtual. I'm going to do it the other way around. I've started right from the beginning with virtual. As I build up chapters all over the world, then it will become reality, because those individuals will meet in the real life. Yeah. And so that's my end goal, is to become the virtual and reality, both. My network is where virtual and reality converge.
Mhm.
That's the plan.
Yeah,
And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's got a great future because, as I say, we all need to network, or most of us do. If you're a tree surgeon or a plumber or something hyper local, I can't help really. But if you're in the brain game and you're selling knowledge or intangible assets, then I can certainly help.
yeah,
The world is our oyster, John.
100%, 100%. The thing that I'm working on too is having spaces in various places in the world where people can come and share that in person experience. And so,
I think you should have a conversation with Susie, the music industry lady I told you about, because she runs a retreat near Stonehenge in the UK, which is, where the Druids have got the iconic stones. So, what a
oh,
place. Yeah.
that'd be super cool. And speaking of connections, I'd be curious of, there's some. I don't think people understand how close they are to connecting with anybody in the world, like anybody out there. If your values are aligned, if you have the passion, commitment, like people can sense that, and you're on a mission that is aligned. There's most anybody it's either time, like, or alignment, like 100%. And if you're ready, those people can come into your life. And I've been able to connect with some people that I never thought that I'd be able to have conversations with and spend time with. So I'd be curious if you're open to share, like, one of the most amazing, unexpected, like, blow your mind connections that you've been able to develop. Even if there's, privacy, however you want to share it. But that would be a pretty cool thing to inspire people to know that that's out there, and this is how it happens.
Sure. So one of my contacts, Dr. Betty, she used to be director of the world's largest bank, JP Morgan Chase. She had a staff of thousands, and I've helped her make the transition from corporate life to civilian life, so to speak. And we've done a deal which is going to result in many thousands of lives being improved in their healthcare plan. And it's going to have an impact on thousands of families. And it's wonderful knowing that our relationship has facilitated such a liquidity event.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect. So
Yeah.
what I think about what's cool about that answer is it's not focused on a celebrity or this or that or it's more so focused like which speaks to your character of the amount of impact somebody's having regardless of who they are. And that's what's most important in building for those relationships for you. So I love that. And
What
then
does your wife do?
Jen, she is right now, she was doing social work for a number of years. So she just left the social work industry last year when we traveled across the country. And she loves to facilitate. And she developed her company called Gen Gene and Peaceful Flow. So it's all about, operating in a way, and it's similar to Zerker's conscious human performance, where it's operating peaceful in the chaos. But as a woman, as people that are juggling multiple um, initiatives, like mothers are taking care of their kids, they're working most of the time, they're feeling drained. So how do you reclaim the thing that you are meant to do and operate in a very chaotic environment, right? As a most of the time a mother or a wife or so it's about stepping into this new way of being where you're feeling healthy, through the process and not taking care of yourself, which I think she did for many years is that caretaker. So helping people that are in that mode of, not necessarily taking care of themselves and stepping into really understanding themselves and having a process and system to do that is her passion.
I've just sent you the invite link to the coveted What's Powerful Women WhatsApp group.
Yes.
So please forward that to your good lady wife. It's the hottest ticket in town. She's about to meet some amazing people from all over the world.
Absolutely.
Most of the individuals in my network are women, and I champion women in industries like tech and finance, which are dominated by men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Women rock.
They do, absolutely. Jen's one of the reasons why we're even here having the conversation, through the support that she's given me over the years and, raising our 2 kids together. There's always a very powerful woman behind a very powerful man, I believe, you know? And we get to honor them and, recognize them as the divine beings that they are. And many times, men in the past have dismissive them because they're afraid of their power, basically, you know? So you gotta be a real man to be with a real woman.
My wife deserves a medal for putting up with me for so many years.
Absolutely.
Incredible woman.
Yeah, 100%. So, I agree 100%. So, what's one way, because as we kinda wrap up here and looking at, something that we can give people, maybe even a challenge, we can give them this week in order to completely revolutionize the way that they're building their network, connecting with people. What kind of challenge would you want to give people this week?
would have to be a networking challenge, and whoever makes the most introductions gets a prize.
Absolutely. So make as many connections, introductions as possible. And one of the ways that I've found is the best way to do that, and I don't know if you do this too, Mark, is when you wake up in the morning, you see who comes to your mind because your subconscious is still operating a bit, and your conscious mind hasn't turned on 100% where it's in logical. So I find that there's a reason why people pop in your mind. And I think there's some sort of connection, in of consciousness, like kind of like when the phone rings and you think of somebody and all of a sudden the phone rings and it's that person.
Yeah.
So those intuitive connections, a lot of people ignore them, but write those names down in the morning and make those introductions or reach out and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" I find that to be very powerful. So that plus doing it with as many people as possible, and maybe even if you do take on this challenge, post the numbers that you did for this week or in the day, like
Yeah, a leaderboard of the most introductions made.
absolutely,
Yeah, introduce a bit of competition into it.
exactly. And
Good idea. Well done, John.
we'll have to handicap you if you're participating. We'll have to handicap you a little bit. You got to do 10 first or 20 or whatever the number is. Um, Cool. And then, we talked about the networks that you're running. How can people join those networks?
So, virtualpowernetworking.com is the brand, the website, and the brand sits on top of several platforms, but WhatsApp is the main one. And if you go to the contact section of the website, you can ping me a message directly on WhatsApp. That's the best way to contact me. Failing that, LinkedIn. Failing that, if all else fails, email. But I'm not a huge email fan.
Yeah, definitely WhatsApp for Mark. so, um, so all my underground warriors, remember your network is one of your greatest sources of power. So you want to lead with authenticity, give without expectation, and the rest will follow. So feel free to share this episode, leave a review, comments, and until next time, thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate you, and
Yeah.
much love. And we'll see you next time.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers, John. Have a great weekend.